To this day, we've all heard horror stories about goblins and demons, and many of us have a special interest in horror films which are often fictional and unrealistic. Many of us don't believe in goblins and think these superstition creatures are crazy people. But today in Dark Fact, we'll prove to you that they do exist. Whether you like it or not, every day all over the world, these fearsome creatures prove their existence to us. Join us to tell you some true stories of the existence of goblins and demons. Stories that might scare you. Number 1. The story of the rich elf who devoured my wife. Men and women lived on an old farm away from the people. The husband was a wicked, cranky old man. He rarely spoke to his wife, and when his wife said something, he would lash out and tell her to shut her mouth. One day, the man, with the help of his wife, was digging a well in his house. Suddenly, from inside the hole they had dug, the calf came out. The man was surprised and told his wife to come home and get a flashlight. The man turned on the flashlight, tied it to a rope, and dropped it into the pit. But the flashlight stuck to something. The man relented and wanted to pull up the flashlight, but when he did, the flashlight was broken, but instead a small white bag was attached to it. He opened it with trembling hands, and to his surprise, there was a piece of gold along with a handwritten note inside it. The man tried to read the note, but it was written in a language he couldn't understand, so he threw the paper away. He told his wife he was going into town to buy a flashlight and ordered her to monitor the cavity until he returned. As soon as her husband left, the woman quickly returned home and searched the closest looking for the dictionary, which she noticed inside the note: send food. The woman took a large piece of ham out of the fridge, put the ham in a bucket, tied it to a rope, and sent it down the pit. The woman waited for a while and then pulled the rope upwards. The bucket was too heavy, but she ended up throwing up the bucket and was shocked to see the bucket filled with sparkling jewels to the end. There was another note, and this time it was in English. The way it was written: send more food. She quickly returned home and hid the jewels. In the meantime, the man returned. The back of his truck was full of flashlights. He put some of them in the bucket and gave it down, but when he pulled the rope up, he got angry and realized the bucket was empty while all the flashlights were broken. In a fierce rage, he kicked the remnants of his powerful lamp and was quite angry. He returned home and brought his own Khmer gun. He told his wife that he was going to go into the well and return with gold. The woman begged her husband not to go, but the man was very angry and didn't listen to his wife. The man attached a large bucket to the back of his truck. He went in the bucket and told his wife to pull the bucket up after 10 minutes. The bucket in which the man was standing went down. After 10 minutes had passed, the woman began pulling the bucket to the surface. She looked at the big bucket, but her husband wasn't there. Instead, the interior was filled with gold bullion, jewels, and coins. On them was a new note inscribed, "Thanks for the meat." Number 2. When my grandfather became an elf. I live in my grandfather's house. One day, after some boring work, I was heading home to get ready for a party to go to my aunt's house. My grandfather was waiting for us to go together. When I got home, I told my grandfather to take a quick shower and come to go. I went to the bathroom, and by the time I was done, It took me half an hour to 40 minutes. I came out of the bathroom and saw that my grandfather was still sitting and not ready. I told him that while I was getting dressed and drying my hair, get ready to go. I went to put my clothes and came along with my grandfather, but my grandfather was not in the house. I searched the whole house and called him. I saw that he didn't have a phone. I said maybe he didn't last and he went alone. I called him and said, "Why didn't you wait to go out together?" The answer he gave me a strange fear. He said, "You went to the bathroom. 5 minutes later, I moved to your aunt's house. I had taken my bath long and then my entry into my grandfather's bathroom had gone." Oh my God, who was the one I saw after the shower and told me to get ready to go? A terrible fear fell on me, but I pulled myself together, exhausted from work and hallucinations. I came to walk out of the house when my eye fell into the house. I saw my grandfather walking around with unnaturally round eyes and an unusual smile. I didn't understand how I locked the door and walked out of the house. I just remember running down the street with a lot of fear and not daring to look behind me. Number 3. The adventure of goblins who were planning to enter my friend's body. After my last class at university, I said goodbye to my friends around 8 p.m. and headed to my student house, which was about 10 minutes from campus. The weather was nice and the mood for walking hit my head, so I decided to walk the campus route home. After a short while, I got home and opened the door, saw my friends waiting for me as usual, and they hadn't eaten anything yet. After eating dinner and watching football, we spread out the beds and turned off the lights and slept. I didn't fall asleep at all. I was just thinking about different things for about an hour and I couldn't sleep at all, and I kept flipping around in bed so that I finally felt a heaviness in my eyes and I was falling asleep, so suddenly I woke up to the sound of my friend talking and delirious in his sleep. I thought he must be having nightmares and then he wouldn't be delirious for a few seconds. I closed my eyes again and wanted to sleep, which my friend started to say delirious again in his sleep. But this time, I just couldn't hear my friend's voice, like there was chatter and laughter. So I'm curious to see who these voices belong to. I opened my eyes and turned my head to my friend. My God, what do I see? Who are these and what does our room do? I saw a couple of people ring around my friend and sit on their knees with their hands on their knees and laugh and chatter in the air and laugh again. My friend was just delirious in my sleep, and they laughed too. Their bodies were so wide and like chalk, so I looked at them as if they had noticed me, and in an instant they all got off the floor and ran to the kitchen. The last one who was running away, I looked at his feet. I saw his legs were like plaster sculptures, but I couldn't see their faces well because I had just woken up and my eyes were still blurry and both their faces and bodies. It was so bright and white. I too pulled the duvet over my face in fear after their escape and slept the same way until the morning. I woke up in the morning with the sound of the children and until I saw my friend. I asked him, "Jack, did you have a nightmare last night?" He said calmly, "No." "How is it?" I told him about it. The Jack said he didn't notice anything at all and he didn't have a nightmare at night. The rest of my friends didn't notice anything either. She hadn't heard my friend's voice nor seen white creatures and was the only witness to me. These are just 4 examples of terrible things that have happened to a few lucky people, but We are sure that such terrible things happen to many people every day. Goblins and demons never sit idle and are always lurking to harass humans. Thanks for being with us until the end. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Until the next video, bye.